Okay, today is August 5th, 2014. Let's take a look at the market here. Starting off with the S&P 500. See, on the S&P 500, we saw a little bit of a dead cat bounce yesterday, and was bouncing up, and it's kind of holding up on this, 1925 level. And we thought that it might be able to come back up and tag this possibly somewhere around this 1950, and maybe even tag the 50-day moving average. But as you can see today, we open up with a down day. Open gap down, and as the day progresses, it kind of seems to be just holding its its ground on some negative area. Then all of a sudden we got a sudden dive on the market here, and it's appear that maybe the news just got overwhelmed the market when the news broke that Russia might be preparing to invade Ukraine. So in any way, all these geopolitical stuff is all temporary anyway. In the long run, those events is just a blimp on the radar, and the thing is, what really matter is the long-term fundamental. And to us as a trader, and also in the near term, we basically watch the price action and look for possible, support and resistance level. So right now, essentially, we're talking about, if it come down here. Oh, by the way, let me flip this to the line chart, which is the close. And a lot of time when we look at these intraday candle or open, high, low, close, the bar chart, you got all these intraday. It's kind of make things a little bit messy, because drawing trend line is sometimes which low do you want to pick, but it's what really matter is actually the close. So that's why sometimes I revert back to looking at the closing price. Just plot the close, and then you could draw these trend line by connecting some of these critical pivot point. So, and that's why here's that 1925 area. So you can see there's some confluence there that provides some possibility of people looking for support at that level. And here we got these pivot point here somewhere around this 1910. So today closed at 1920, so we might be able to we might expect that the S&P might drop down to this 1910 tomorrow if it continue to come down. And we're still looking at this under this 1900, basically this 1898, 1897 level, as a primary support here for it to come down and tag before we really get some kind of bounce here. And also, it could also be a confluence close to this particular trend line coming up. Okay, and a lot of people is thinking about maybe coming down to this moving average and the 200-day moving average. Well, 200-day moving average is what? It's based on averaging 200-day of 200 previous day prices. So what really matters is the raw data of the price, right? It's just a derivative of the price anyway. So people always look at this as a support and resistance and that sort of thing. It's really what matters is this pivot point, right? That give you these support and resistance. And sometimes these moving average appear to be providing support, but if you look at some of these pivot points, it is the pivot point that laying there at that particular same spot as the moving average. So when the price came down to that pivot point and bounced, it appeared that the moving average is actually providing the support. Okay, but in either case, it really doesn't matter. The level is level, right? So whatever you want to use, and if you feel comfortable with it, and if it works, hey, great. But here's the way that I look at it. So it's these pivot point here. So 1898, so round off, somewhere around 1900. Basically, that's what we're looking at for tomorrow. If it flushed down to 1910, it doesn't hold, then look for 1900. If it holds, we might get a little bit more bounce back and retest the previous. Like we always said, the previous resistance becomes support, and the previous support, and when we break it, then it becomes resistant, right? So right now, what is the last support that we're looking at, which is 1925. So we'll probably be expecting 1925 to be a resistant level, okay, if it bounces back up there. So that's basically the S&P 500 outlook here. So the key point to watch is 1910, right? Okay, if it could come back above the 1925, then we look at 1950, right? If it break the 1910, then look at the 1900 or 1897, 1898. Okay, so that's basically what we're looking at on the S&P 500. Then again, looking at the Nasdaq 100, again, we're looking at the same thing using the close and plot the closing prices here. We could see that so it was trying to hold this pivot at about this 38, 80 and some odd change, right? 38.80. You can see this close on July 10th. It's sitting at 38.80.04. Okay, and here's this 38.78, and here's the 38.79.67. So today it's kind of broke below that a little bit. But also the other thing is, if you notice that there's this little head and shoulder pattern, right? Look at this, right? Okay, so there's a little head and shoulder pattern that we could do a major move on. So if we also put this on there, it's not so apparent, right? When we have all these little bar chart or whatever, even if we put a candle on there, right, it's not that clear. But if we sometimes do this, just plot the close, all of a sudden we see that price pattern a little bit more clear, right? So again, let's do a major move, and we do this, come down here on this baseline. So if it break as 100% retracement, then guess what? It's got pretty close to this particular pivot, which is somewhere around 36.63, 36.64 here. Okay, so that's one possibility. If we're going to break that, break this pattern, then it's going to come down. Right? So that's one possibility of potential support. But also the other one is the 618. This is the 1618 extension, okay, of this move. So it's essentially like a 60% of the retracement pattern. Right? Then we see that it's get down to somewhere around this 38.05, which is close to 3800. Right? So you see all these pivot point here, right? 38.05, okay, and here's the 38.4461. Okay, so that might be the next support level if it break. But here again, we got a little pivot point here, so that might provide a little bit of minor support tomorrow if it come down and it hold that level 38.64. Okay, so we'll see, could we get a bounce at 38.64? If it bounce, then maybe we will come back up and we test this particular level here somewhere around 39.08, 39.09. Okay, so that's the Nasdaq. And then the Russell has got everybody all wound up. That's the one that we already, got everybody all spooked up, afraid this market going to crash and everything else. But anyway, well, if it crash, it crash, right? But until that come, right now. So what are we looking at? It held this particular support here today, this point here, this pivot, which is 11.14.43. So we've been looking at that 11.14, 11.15 level, right? So if it break that, then we could look at coming down somewhere around these levels that everybody seems to be looking at. This 1095. People call it head and shoulder, but I call it double top if that's the case, right? Because this is the top, and this is the top that's shy by 50 cents, right? Okay, but if you want to call it a head and shoulder, sure, you could do that. Just put a baseline here, right? The neckline over here, and say here's my head and shoulder, right? Here's the low head, just 50 cents above the right shoulder. I mean. That's kind of weird of a head and shoulder, but hey, it is what it is if people want to call that. But in regardless, it doesn't matter. If it break, the major move, it still use the same point, right? We're basically using, this right here as the baseline, and then trace it down to somewhere around 983, right? That would be 20%. Correction. If we take 20% from this level here, this was at 1208. Right, so let's round off at 1200. So subtract 240 points. That's 960, right? Okay. So basically, it brings it down somewhere around here, right? Okay. So we'll see what happened. Get down to this major move down here. Okay, so essentially it's come down to this 982, and it's pretty close to these level here also, right? These pivot level here. So you can see there's some pivot level here. So maybe it come down to that point, to that, maybe that's 980. Okay, so that's the Russell 2000. And then we look at the Dow Jones. Okay, you can see that Dow Jones, I even got a little bit trend line here. And it seems to see this trend line. See, yesterday we got that bounce and just peak above that trend line. Or you could say that it's got that trend line as a resistance. I mean, it's depending on how I draw the trend line, right? So it can't be that accurate. So you could say that, yeah, you sort of encounter some sort of resistance because it pulled back today. Right. Also, if you look at these pivot level here, we're basically looking at 16,580, right? Okay, 16,572, okay, 16,576. Okay, so there's a level, and then yesterday, we got up to 69. So it's basically like 70, right? So now it's coming down, and we maybe tag this level here that everybody probably was staring at, this 16,374. Okay, and when it get down there, if it bounce, and everybody say, oh yeah, 200-day moving average, you tell the 200-day moving average, really? Well, it's actually these pivot point, right? 16,361, 16,374. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at, monitor, to somewhere around here, the 16,370 area for tomorrow in the Dow. If it flush down and if we get a bounce, and again, basically want to look at the previous resistance, then probably will be back up here at the 16,580. Okay, maybe a little bit of encounter resistance here at the 16,485, but most likely it probably will come back and try to test this 16,580 area. Okay, but again, tomorrow we're basically watching this level here. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little insight on what to look for at the market. If the market tank tomorrow and dip down, hey, it's just a course of pullback, right? I mean, just because we haven't seen this for a while, let's not get hysterical. Until the market have tell us that it has topped, we're still going to get a little bit of a rebound, right? Because this does not look like a top, right? Have you ever seen a market top like this? I haven't. So, good luck.